It honestly seems like Nvidia is just digging themselves into a deeper hole with each passing day as we get more info coming out surrounding their upcoming 40 series graphics cards. Or they just don't care because they don't need to, and everything will still sell out regardless. Let's discuss that in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. There's a few different topics I wanted to talk about in this video, all of them surrounding Nvidia's 40 series GPUs. The first thing I wanted to talk about briefly was a follow-up to the whole 4090 adapter connector melting situation. It's been about 3 weeks since the initial case was posted to Reddit, and we still have not gotten an official statement from Nvidia, which I think is absolutely ludicrous if you ask me. But I don't think anyone was expecting a full-on report from Nvidia with a diagnostic explaining what went wrong, but just an official PR statement telling the community that they are aware of the situation, they're investigating, and that they will be working with users affected by the problem. I get that they also don't want to mislead anyone with wrong information or say something that would allude to where the problem could possibly lie when it could turn out to be rather totally different. However, all we've gotten so far is third-party tech outlets who have had a bit of communication with them, or maybe not even directly from Nvidia, but it was through an AIB, so a middleman, just relaying information they got from Nvidia. That Reddit thread has grown quite a bit since the last video I posted, which initially talked about this problem. As I was making this video, we also got an update that someone's 4090 FE has also been affected, whereas before there weren't any reports of those models implying that they weren't affected. Along with that, now we've gotten users reporting that native 12V PWR cables also melting, not an adapter but cables coming out directly from their power supply and going to the GPU. Once we started to see that, it definitely made the situation more complex because a lot of people and some reviewers who did some testing suggested that Nvidia's adapter is poorly made or there's some defect with them. They could still be right, I mean nothing is confirmed yet, and the adapter could be part of the problem, but now we're also seeing native cables melt, which could suggest that there's an issue with the actual connector itself. Johnny Guru, who is a well-known reviewer for his power supply reviews and now works at Corsair, did some testing and suggested that the cause could be due to user error, where people aren't fully connecting or inserting the 12V PWR connector into the port of the graphics card all the way in. Based on his reasoning, I think he might just have a point. Unlike the 6+ 2-pin VGA connectors, I noticed the first time I connected the 12V PWR adapter, it doesn't give you the same sort of feedback of a connection being made as the old 8-pin did. Along with that, the connection feels quite tight, so you really have to push in with some force before you even hear a faint click. In his testing, he found that even having it unplugged a bit would cause temps to rise to a concerning point. I was reading some comments online, and some people were even saying that no matter how much force they use, they can't seem to get the 12V PWR plug to be flush with the connector on the graphics card. That could be perhaps why we might be seeing all these melted connectors, because the user may have had a slightly loose connection even though they might have thought they had it plugged in all the way. Now since that last video, I actually ended up ordering a third-party adapter from Amazon by a company called Fastgear. It is a 16-pin to 3 8-pin adapter which sold for like $26, and it's like a third of the price compared to a cable mod version. I don't have the cable mod version, so I can't really talk about that one, but what I can talk about is the Fastgear adapter, and so far it felt quite superior compared to the Nvidia adapter. You also have individually braided wires for the plug, and the terminals only have one seam or one split, unlike the Nvidia one where it has 2 splits. And also, it sits completely flush with the connector on my MSI RTX 4090 Gaming X Trio. And when I plugged it in, I did actually hear a click, kind of like what I was used to hearing with the 8 pins. So far, I've been using it with my 4090 through various tests and benchmarks, and I haven't had a single problem with it. But circling back to Nvidia's silence, it's baffling to see them behave this way. Maybe the issue isn't as big as it seems. After all, there's a little over 20 cases on Reddit, whereas there have been thousands and thousands of 4090s sold all over the world. I get not everyone will be reporting the problem. Some people may even be running their cards not knowing the adapter may have slightly melted. So if it really was a huge issue, don't you guys think we'd be seeing a lot more cases pop up every day? Nonetheless, I don't think it's a good look for Nvidia. It makes it seem like they really don't care. On the bright side, I have heard from those affected users that turnaround time for their RMAs hasn't been bad despite 4090s barely being in stock. Moving on, and I wanted to talk about the upcoming RTX 4080. In just a few days, the review embargo for the graphics card will be lifted, and we'll find out all about its performance. I can confidently say that this GPU is going to be a flop in terms of its performance, or, at least I hope it flops overall. Even from the preliminary information we have right now, based on the 4080, it's obvious that it's going to be about 20 to 25% faster than the 3090 Ti on average, but really for the same price. We'll talk about performance in more detail once the embargo lifts, but what I instead wanted to talk about was pricing. It's unfortunate that even after the RX 7900 XTX unveil from AMD, Nvidia basically has their ears plugged in and are acting like they don't exist. One thing I did highlight in my previous video was that Nvidia has that strong brand perception, that mindshare, and it's also because they're a giant when compared to AMD. But who do you think enabled this behavior? As much as we all want to bash on Nvidia for their practices and exorbitant prices, the consumers are the ones responsible for this. This problem goes way back. I'm not going to get into a whole history lesson here, but just giving you guys a little bit of a brief explanation, people bought the more expensive and more power-hungry GTX 280 over the 4870. When the R9 390 came out with 8GB, there was no reason for anyone to be buying a 3.5GB GTX 970, but people still did. People bought the 1050 Ti over an RX 470, which just blew my mind because the 470 was drastically faster for basically around the same price. So this is the thing, right? When AMD had the better value card, they had the faster solution for a cheaper price, people still lined up in droves and purchased the Nvidia card. I wish the embargo and release for the 7900 XTX was sooner because when that card comes out, it'll embarrass the 4080, at least in rasterization based on the info we have right now. Still, even with Nvidia's market dominance, I still think they should have dropped down the price on the 4080 to $899. Let's forget about AMD for a moment. Retailers have started listing the 4080 online on their website, and I was taking a look at some of those prices and was just left shaking my head. In what world does this make more sense than that? And this is the thing, right? People are going to see this and immediately go, screw that. If I'm already paying $1,300 to $1,500 for a 4080, we're not that far off from the 4090, so I might as well just get the 4090. Either way, Nvidia doesn't care because it's a smart upselling strategy on their end, so they win. There was a picture posted on Reddit by a user, and this picture really puts things into perspective. What this chart shows us is the relative CUDA core count of various Nvidia GPUs from the current and past generations relative to the top tier consumer die. And you can really see just how far cut down the 4080 is relative to the full 8102 die, and comparing them to previous gen X80 cards. Even when Nvidia used a 104 die for the 1080 and 2080, it sat at around that 65% mark of the full die. The 4080 is sitting around the low 50% mark, in line with what X70 class cards sit at. So I was wrong. Previously, I called the 4080 12GB an X70 class card, which is incorrect. The 4080 12GB is more of an X60 Ti class card, and the 4080 16GB is an X70 class card disguised as an X80 class card and just being sold at an astronomical price. I bet Nvidia regrets selling the 3080 for $699 MSRP, but essentially what you're getting with the 4080 is a $600 card at double the price. Nvidia is making bank on this card. There's no way it should be justified at $1199, and any reviewer out there that gives this card a glowing review should be immediately put on your blacklist. I know in the past I've said that specs on paper don't hold more weight than actual performance, but there's an extent to that. At some point, you have to draw the line to say you're done getting fleeced and you're not going to support this. And this is all just another part of Nvidia's master plan. Take another look at the chart. The gap between the 4080 and 4090 is so large, it should be obvious to you that Nvidia is going to slot in another GPU in there and call it the 4080 Ti. When that card comes out, that will be the moment Nvidia drops the price on the 4080 down to like $899 and then slots in the 4080 Ti at $1199, which will be relatively close to the 4090 in performance. And then everyone's going to praise them for it. People are going to be celebrating like, hey, look, Nvidia's giving us a better price, better value card than the 4080 at the same price, and they're dropping down the price of the 4080. It's all good now. I can already see it playing out that way. Moving on, and I wanted to briefly talk about the cancelled RTX 4080 12GB. It seems like this GPU is now going to make a return as an RTX 4070 Ti. I called it, didn't I? The appropriate name for this card really should be a 4060 Ti and should be no more than $399. Instead, what you'll be getting is another GPU which has been shifted up a tier, and since Nvidia has been in the mood for raising prices, this card will probably be released with an MSRP of $799. According to some rumors, this GPU is going to launch sometime in early January, so CES, I'll bet, and perhaps we'll see some info on a 4070. The sad part is that day one, these cards will be sold out. If it wasn't obvious to you since last year, then it doesn't matter what kind of negativity there is, what kind of backlash one gets, what the pricing is, people will never look for an alternative and vote with their wallets. All the masses see is Nvidia as this premium brand and are ready to fork over their money, not realizing their competitor actually has a decent alternative with better value. Let's give it till summer and take a look at a Steam hardware survey, and you guys will see what I mean. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.